Let's talk about the responses going around to the Barbie movie because I think it's absolutely fascinating. We'll do that in just a second here. So the Barbie movie came out and it's doing fairly well at the box office, but it's getting very, very mixed reception. You're seeing all sorts of reviews of the film. You've got some absolutely praising it as a triumph of cinema, and then you've got others saying it's just good in the first half and woke trash in the second half. Now, as for me, I haven't seen it, nor do I have any interest in seeing the Barbie movie, but I am interested about the conversation surrounding it because I think it absolutely is significant. Now, for all intents and purposes, every in depth review, every spoiler review I've seen of this movie, yes, it is woke. Whether or not you would define it personally as woke, it is actually the textbook definition of woke. It is absolutely centered around the idea of elevating women and lowering men. Even if it's done for the sake of comedy, that's absolutely what it is doing. And what fascinates me is people going around saying that men don't have a right to get upset about that. Because they absolutely do. And all you have to do is reverse the sexes, and you've got the world being set on fire. People said if this was a Ken movie with this overall tone, that would be a problem. And it absolutely would be, and they're absolutely correct. But because it's women, they just want to gaslight and try to point and laugh at people who get upset at the fact that they're actively trying to tear down men. Folks, we shouldn't be tearing down anybody, realistically, man or woman. But in this era of third wave feminism, there are writers, directors, and producers that are intent on doing this. And then, because it's a comedy movie, they'll try to hide behind the shield of comedy. Now, folks, like I said, I don't care about this movie. My thoughts about this movie are I can't believe they waited till 2023 to make a movie about one of the biggest toy franchises of all time. That's very confusing to me, but here we are. At the end of the day, the Barbie movie was always going to succeed on brand alone, okay? I heard a lot of people saying this movie was going to fail because it was woke and word of mouth would crush it. Not necessarily. There's a lot of people who are just ignorant to the culture war. They're ignorant to what's going on in the film industry and the battles back and forth. They don't know and they don't particularly care. They just see Barbie and they say, I want to go see it. This movie was always going to get high praise from the critics. It was always going to do the usual thing. But the reason there's so much contention is because we're in the midst of a culture war, and it does have culture war themes. And you cannot lie and say that it doesn't. Because it absolutely does. People have given full-blown, scene-by-scene synopsis of this movie, and they're being 100% honest and transparent about it. The only thing is you've got people who disagree. Well, I don't think it's woke. Well, that means you probably agree with the overall message of the film. But people are allowed to disagree with something, whether you think it's woke or not, whether they think it's woke or not. They're allowed to feel however they want about it. But you've got people out there saying, if you've got a problem with this movie, then you're some sort of terrible person. And we've heard this so many times before over the past decade and a half when it comes to media, is that anybody who has any problems with any form of wokeness is some sort of bad person. And people are tired of it. People are frankly tired of it. I'm frankly tired of it. Because I am somebody who believes, as somebody who talks about media frequently, that you are allowed to have whatever opinion you want about media, whether it be positive or negative, okay? That's just how it is. It's just like politics and politicians. If you like or dislike a politician, you're absolutely allowed to. But because of the nature of the culture war, you've got so many people out there trying to demonize people they've never met because they have a negative opinion about the Barbie movie. Oh, that means you're right wing. That means you're conservative, which is not inherently bad at all. That means you're a Trump supporter. Ooh, orange man bad. You know, it's getting old. It's getting very old, and so are people. I'm not getting any younger. At the end of the day, you need to learn that people are allowed to feel how they want to and allowed to respond how they want to. A lot of people are going after Ben Shapiro. I think he did a great job reviewing the movie. I think he was honest about it. I think he was honest about his dislike about it. I think he tried to be comedic with it. And he had disagreements even with his own staff, with Brett Cooper. She felt differently about the movie, and she's absolutely allowed to. So, at the end of the day, you have to understand that people can view things however they want, positive or negative. You're allowed to have discussion, you're allowed to have debate. What you're not allowed to do is to try to shut down any debate and discussion and discredit people's opinions on a film. At the end of the day, you're not allowed to just go after people, start calling them names because they disliked a film and because there were elements within a film that they didn't like and that they felt personally offended by. How many times are people offended by old Disney movies and yet they're still beloved? The Little Mermaid, the original Little Mermaid, is often considered very much misogynistic, which is why they made a new one. Same with a lot of these old Disney movies that they're remaking. They're remaking them because they feel like they're outdated in terms of their cultural norms and problematic. When in reality, most people who've seen them and grew up with them don't have any problems and don't see those themes in them. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's how a lot of people are responding to the Barbie movie. So why is it that it is okay for one group of people to take a group of classic movies and criticize them for being classics and reading themes into them that inherently aren't there, but it's not okay for another group to do something similar with a current movie, even though that current movie is blatant about its messaging? At least blatant once you see the film. They hide it in the trailers. At the end of the day, we're in a culture war and people look into these themes personally. They're not losing sleep over the fact that the Barbie movie was overall feminist or woke or whatever you want to call it. People are just pointing that out, that that's clearly what it is, because there are people who do care about that, and they care about what their kids are exposed to. And they're not wrong for caring about that. You don't have to like that they care about that, but they're not wrong for caring about that. It's just, the culture war has become such a headache, but yet everybody's going to keep fighting it. It's going to be a back and forth. As long as Hollywood is steeped in leftism and leftist ideology, you're going to get the other side piping up. And as long as there are people in Hollywood who make movies based on the other side, you're going to get the leftists popping up and complaining. It's going to be a back and forth for a long time. So my suggestion to people is this. Either you check out of the culture war now and just ignore everything and just focus on what you like. Don't talk to anybody. Don't engage with anybody who might have a slight negative opinion. Don't go to any website, don't go to any page where you're going to see a comment section, because I guarantee you in that comment section you are going to see people who disagree with you fundamentally, and it's going to irritate you. I've had to learn over the years. I'm 31 now, but I had to learn in my teens and in my 20s with social media. Sometimes you have to just shut it off, because there are going to be people who have opinions that you feel are stupid and get under your skin. And that's what centers around this culture war, are people's opinions going back and forth and people's viewpoints going back and forth. If you can't handle that, get off the internet. Don't go into the comments section and start a flame war and start arguing with somebody who is not going to agree with you, okay? That's all I'm going to say to some people, because at the end of the day, there are people who just want to fight about every little thing, every little opinion that somebody expresses. And I'm done with that. I'm 31. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life engaging with people online who I disagree with. I'm not even going to give them the time of day, and neither should you. This culture war will end real quick once people start fighting with each other online. It's old, it's stupid, it accomplishes nothing. Nobody walks away with a more enlightened opinion. At the end of the day, it's just discourse that will keep going and going and going in circle and circle and circle. Eventually this thing will end and one group will reign supreme. I don't know who it's going to be. But eventually one group will dominate. That will be the end of that. It won't be the end of discourse. There will always be discourse. But it's just fascinating to me. We're talking about a movie that is based on a kid's toy that was written for a specific crowd of people, and then the people who aren't in that crowd watch it and are offended by its messaging, which they have every right to be, especially if it's targeted towards them or towards their gender in a negative way, they have a right to be upset about that. If you're a man and you see yourself on screen or you see your gender on screen being utterly disrespected, you're not allowed to say anything? Women are allowed to say things all the time, but a man's not allowed to. Because I'll see people say this. You're not allowed to watch the Barbie movie if you're a guy. Even though there are trailers saying, even jokingly, bring your grandpa or something like that. Anybody can watch this movie. And there are people saying, well, it's not made for kids. But they're marketing it straight to kids. It's PG-13. It just means they need a parent with them to get in and to watch. Of course it's marketed towards kids. It is a kid's brand. And some people have a problem with the messaging in the movie being exposed to kids. That's perfectly fine. If you don't have a problem with it, then ignore those people. I don't understand how people get so hung up on what other people think. It's ridiculous. It's like you never got out of high school. Grow up. Learn that other people are allowed to have negative opinions on something you like. Oh, but if they misrepresent this movie, it's an affront to me. Who cares? Let them believe what they want to believe. If you like it, great. If you don't run on Facebook and make a spiel about how terrible somebody is for not liking the Barbie movie. That's my whole point. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember, Hollywood doesn't respect you. This has been Super Koopa TV. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.